Today I want to talk to you a little bit about sleeping. I love sleeping. Sleeping is great. And it's something that we all need, and it's something that we all do. But some of us kind of struggle with sleep, it seems. And there's lots of different reasons why we struggle with sleep. Some people struggle to get to sleep. Some people struggle to stay asleep. Some people struggle to stay asleep for long enough. And there are lots of things out there that help with sleep. And so I thought I'd best do a little bit of research on sleep, the science behind it, what makes it happen, what gets in the way, all that sort of stuff. And one of the first things I came across was a chemical released by the brain called melatonin. And the brain releases all sorts of chemicals, and they're basically drugs. They do stuff that drugs do to us, like endorphins that you get after you do exercise. Unfortunately, not before you do exercise, because that would be really helpful. But endorphins that you get after you do exercise that give you such a buzz are actually the basis for the buzz that you get from heroin. So your brain is very powerful at releasing drugs. And melatonin is the drug that's released that takes you into a sleep cycle, or that scientists think takes you into a sleep cycle. Apparently, from studies, it starts being released at about 9 o'clock in the evening. And as you get closer to midnight, it kind of peaks through the night with full-on melatonin release. And then if you measure again after about 9 o'clock of the next morning, you won't find melatonin in your system. So it clearly has a purpose in doing something, and scientists aren't exactly clear what, but what we know is it kind of comes in around the sleep cycle. And quite often you can take melatonin. I have a friend who has a son who's autistic, and he gets a dose of melatonin before bed, which allows him to sleep through the night. So it's a powerful chemical released by the brain naturally. So we can do stuff to, if something's released by the brain naturally, you can always do something with your thoughts to get your brain to release more of it. So my download includes the possibility to release more melatonin. The other thing you can do to enforce that is manage the light situation. So, you can get sad lamps. One of the things you can do is you can have lots of brightness around up until about 9 o'clock at night, and then you can just bring the light right down. And by bringing the light right down, you trigger the start of that melatonin release cycle. The other thing that happens is that thoughts can get in the way a lot. And sometimes, that needs a little bit of therapy and help to get past those thoughts. But thoughts, I've talked about before, thoughts aren't really real. So thoughts can come and go. And so the download also focuses on, and I call it a download, it's an MP3 file that you can put on any device, by the way, that you download to a device. So that's why it's called a download. Anyway, so you can breathe. You can focus on your breathing. And it's amazing if you think about that kind of anxiety reaction that I've talked about before. When faced with a physical threat, your brain triggers a physical response. When faced with an emotional threat, your brain triggers a physical response. And that physical response generally involves an increase in your heart rate and a shortening of your breath. So in response to external factors, your brain is able to trigger a physical response. That means if you change your physical response, you actually have a two-way communication with your brain. So your brain thinks, okay, everything's okay. So if when you're panicking, you change your breathing to be something steady and calm, your brain thinks you're not panicking, and it stops trying to do stuff to cope with the panic. Sleeping's the same thing. So if you focus on your breathing, and the simplest technique I find, because everybody struggles in different ways with breathing, the simplest technique I find is to breathe in as you count to 1, breathe out as you count to 2. Breathe in as you count to 1. Breathe in as you count to 2. Breathe out as you count to 2. Breathe in as you count to 3. Breathe out as you count to 3. Breathe in for 4, out for 4. In for 5, out for 5. Now, personally, I recommend you then start again at 1. You could go up to 10. But it can be quite challenging to breathe in for 10 and out for 10 and then go right back to 1 afterwards. Or you could count 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. It's up to you. But the essence is that you control your breathing. Now, there's two advantages to this. One is it's quite relaxing to steady your breathing physically, and relaxing is a good place to be. When you've got the melatonin coming in, your body's physically relaxed. That puts you in the best state of mind for sleep. The other advantage is it's kind of hard to think about all the other stuff when you're focused on counting your breathing. So it has a real advantage to distract your brain. And actually, That's all meditation and mindfulness is. It's distracting yourself, because normally thoughts distract you, and if you can distract yourself from your thoughts, you kind of get in the way of that pattern interrupt again. So you've got the melatonin release, ideal circumstances for that. Don't read in bed, don't do anything else in bed apart from sleep. Let your brain know that bed equals sleep, as opposed to bed equals go and read, watch telly, whatever. If those are the things you do and they get you to sleep, that's okay, by the way, if that's your habit. But if you're struggling with sleep, the message is just go to bed to sleep. And then your brain knows when I'm here, I sleep. If you're struggling to sleep for too long, you best get out of bed rather than stay in sleep. So in bed, so that your brain anchors that, oh, I'm in bed and I'm not sleeping kind of state. Anyway, melatonin release. Breathe. Thoughts, not real. Okay? So as a thought comes, let it go again. Find a way of visualizing it. I've had people who saw thoughts as branches growing that they turned to jelly and it dropped to the ground. I've had people who had thoughts that were post-it notes on a wall that dropped off. I've had people whose thoughts were a leaf that fell into a river and floated away. There'll be something that works for you. So go with what works for you, but recognize that a thought can come and go. So as you focus on your breathing, letting your thoughts come and go at the right time of night, anchoring yourself into a positive state for sleep, you might find that that both allows you to get to sleep if you struggle with that, but also if you wake up through the night, this download that's available on my Facebook page, which is, if you search Think It Change It, or the URL has Think Change Become with no spaces at the end. I should put that on a banner, but I'm not that organised today. If you do all of that stuff, then that allows you to give yourself the best chance to get into a regular sleep pattern. So for free on my Facebook page at the moment, I have an MP3 file that you can use that does all of that stuff. So it's got me talking, so you don't have to concentrate on it. But there's my tips for being able to get to sleep. Hopefully it works for you. If it does, feel free to share. If it doesn't, tell me why, because I'm always looking to learn more. All right, take care.